There's a saying that one never gets a second chance to make a first impression. So how can we make sure it's a great one when introducing ourselves as new managers to a team? Here are 5 tips that will help you run your first team meetings like a pro. My name is Sabine Renner. I'm an organizational psychologist, leadership and personal development coach and trainer, and researcher in the field of positive psychology. On this channel, I provide proven, actionable tips, tools and strategies that will help you take the lead and succeed at work and beyond. Let's get started with our top 5 tips for today. Here's tip number 1. Be prepared. Meeting your team for the first time can be quite nerve-wracking, in particular for first-time managers. Try to direct your internal dialogue by focusing outward on the people you're going to meet and the environment you will be in. The more you know, the more you will be at ease. So how can you prepare yourself? Find out who will be at the meeting. Memorize and then later on use people's name, understand their titles and functions, and try to link a face to the name by looking people up in the internal directory and on LinkedIn. Do some research about the team. Talk to your manager and or predecessor with the aim to get a brief overview of the team members, past successes, current challenges, as well as anything that requires your attention, such as, for example, interpersonal conflicts. Also, team values as well as the current team strategy will be important reference point for you, not necessarily for this first team meeting, but definitely later on. Tip number 2 is about being intentional. Ask yourself what your intentions, or in other words, your goals for this meeting are. If you are new to the team, then the focus should definitely be on first, giving yourself and the team an opportunity to get to know each other. Second, providing guidance on the next steps and an opportunity to ask questions. And third, building a basis for respectful and trusting relationships to flourish. Now, while it might be very tempting to talk business as quickly as possible and to move into execution, I highly recommend that you invest the time and consciously decide to put trust before task and to build solid relationships first. And that starts at the first team meeting. You can expect your team members to be nervous as well. Getting a new manager is, for many people, a major change. It's a transition that might come along with many questions and possibly even fears and concerns that can be addressed much more easily once there is a foundation of trust. Tip number 3. Decide how you want to show up. I recommend that you ask yourself 3 questions ahead of the meeting. What impression would you actually like to create? If your team members were to describe their impression of you after the meeting, what would be the 3 to 5 attributes that you would hope to hear? What messages would you like your team members to take away from the meeting? And lastly, how would you like your team members to feel during and after the meeting? Jot down your answers and then decide on how you could tailor and synchronize your message as well as your verbal and non-verbal communication accordingly. Now, while there's clearly no carved into stone right answer to these questions, here are some thoughts that served me as well as many of my coaching clients well. Be human and relatable. Share some information that makes it easy for people to get to know you and to connect with you. Be a leader, but don't be a boss. Express that you are there to support them. It's not the other way around. Be humble and a curious learner. Acknowledging that there are things that you don't know and that you kindly ask for your team's support along the way is a great way to build trust and to create a safe environment for people to learn and to ask questions. There is actually no need to be a perfect Mr. or Mrs. Know-it-all, at least not at that point in time. Be appreciative of the team's past successes. And then, last but not least, be a role model and let your actions speak louder than your words. Tip 4. Have the agenda and your introduction ready. For those of you who are eagerly waiting for suggestions on what to actually say, tip 4 is for you. But before we get there, allow me to share 3 suggestions that form the basis of what is to follow. Suggestion number 1 is to keep the meeting at a manageable length. It's meant to be an introduction, not an in-depth exploration, which will follow at a later stage. Try to keep things as concise as possible and try to keep the meeting time under an hour. Suggestion number 2 is to make it interactive and to create a shared experience. Nobody likes to passively listen for a prolonged period of time. Ask questions and avoid the temptation to monologue about yourself and how great you are. And finally, suggestion number 3 is to take the time to get to know the team first. Before you provide an overview of your plans, you want to make sure that they are supported by the information you receive in this early phase. Now, in terms of agenda and content, here's what I recommend for you to cover and to say. First of all, you want to thank everybody for coming, and to then express your excitement about the opportunity to work together with this team. Show that you are well informed by making references to past successes. And then provide a quick overview about what's going to happen during this particular meeting. And then you may want to provide some background about yourself. Not your entire CV, not all credentials. Keep it short and focused. You don't want to come across as self-absorbed at all. I urge you to really think about what are the key points here and how you can convey them in a few sentences. Ask yourself what information will help your team to understand why you are best positioned to help the team thrive. In short, what is in it for them? Also, you want to share with them what motivates and inspires you and what is important for you in the context of working together. Allow people to really get an idea about who you are as a person. You may want to share some personal information about, for example, your family and personal interests. And then also let them know that you're in learning mode and that you're eager to learn as much as possible about the team, the environment, as well as each individual within the team. And speaking of the team and team members, this is an excellent introduction to the next agenda point, which is get to know the team. Ask people about, for example, their current role, the key tasks they perform, and when they joined the company and the team. Then take a moment to provide an overview about the next steps that are going to happen after this event. I highly recommend that you let people know that you will schedule individual one-on-one meetings to get to know your team members individually, their goals, their aspirations, their needs, and also to provide them with the opportunity to ask questions. Let people know by when they can expect to receive this invite and when the meetings will actually take place. Also mention that you first seek to better understand the scene as well as individual expectations, and that there will be further team meetings afterwards to discuss and align on how to work together and communicate as a team. Let your team know that you were there anytime before the one-on-ones to discuss ad hoc questions or needs and tell them how to best approach you. And then open it up for questions. Try to answer as many of them as possible, but also keep in mind that if in doubt, it might be wiser to take a note and promise to come back. And then finally, thank everybody again and express how much you're looking forward to work together with your new team. Tip number 5 is to reflect and to take notes. Take a moment after the meeting to summarize your key learnings and takeaways. What questions came up and what follow-ups did you agree on? Make sure to follow through accordingly, one step at a time. Curious to learn more about how to take the lead and succeed in your role as a new manager? Have a look at this video in which I share 7 tips for new managers, and also consider subscribing for more tips to set yourself and your team up for success. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks so much for watching.